Thank you so much for being here. I know it's been a long day, but it's been a wonderful day. I hope you've learned so much so far. So I would like to introduce you to our panel, but before I do that, I'll go ahead and introduce myself. So my name is Doreen Kessie, and I'm the Chief Business Officer here at Ubongo. I really enjoy telling stories to our partners that can help mobilize them behind our work. I'm very passionate about what we do. I absolutely love what I do at Ubongo and what we do as a whole. And I really believe that the investment that we are making in children is critical. And it's going to make such a big difference in their lives as they continue to grow. And fun learning is a huge part of that, and that's what we are doing, really bringing kids top quality content through whatever technologies that they have accessible. So I'll let my panelists introduce themselves, but we are co-moderating this panel. I'm doing that with Nyla, and she will tell you who she is. She'll introduce herself, and then we'll have our panelists also introduce themselves. You want to take it away?
Hi, I'm Nyla Janabi. I go to Berber International School. I'm an entrepreneur, and I like to sell things for charity.
Okay. I hope you heard her well. Ochek, you can pick that microphone next to you.
So I'm Ochek Msuva. I think we have just had a chance to share my story. And I work towards nurturing young people.
Yes, my name is Wilberforce Mena. I'm working with Akili and Me as educational technical advisor.
Hello, my name is Marion Ehalt. I work at the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, in Vienna, in Austria. And I'm here with my colleague Kudzai, who is also working at UNODC based in Nairobi. And we are working on drugs and crime, but we have also developed an initiative called Education for Justice, where we have developed videos and comic books on value education and values which are important for crime prevention and justice. Thank you.
Let's see if this works. Hello? It works. My name is Nahida Ismail. I am a writer, children's books, picture, and young adult fiction. I would like to believe that I'm one of the few Tanzanian writers who write in English.
Hi everybody, my name is Natalie Smith. I work for UKAid, DFID in Tanzania. I'm the Deputy Head of Human Development for DFID in Tanzania and also lead our innovation work, including the Human Development Innovation Fund, through which we've been supporting Ubongo for a few years, as well as others. Thanks.
Hi everyone, I'm Alinun Nsema. I work for UNICEF. UNICEF, we normally support the government of Tanzania to make sure that we strengthen the system to support the right and the protection of young children. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So as you can see, our panel is very diverse, and these are individuals who are doing various things in their community in Tanzania and in other parts of Africa. So the purpose of this panel, it's titled The Circle of Influence. It takes a village. And we really wanted to have this discussion because it's true. It takes a village to raise a child. For those of you who have children, if this is true, I mean, unless you think, Doreen, yeah, that's not, I mean, I don't have my own kids, so maybe I'm wrong, but does it take a village to raise a child? If yes, say yes. Like, if you believe that is true, say yes. Right, so it takes a lot of people, there's a lot of people involved, whether you acknowledge it or not, that are really investing in children in various ways. So we wanted to talk about who in the society is responsible for nurturing care and well-being of children. Obviously, it's all of us. But the truth is we all have different responsibilities. And I think there's quite a number of opportunities that maybe we are already tapping into, and maybe there are opportunities that we are not yet tapping into. And then, of course, there is challenges that is to be expected. I'd like us to discuss what those challenges are. And then how do we move forward to make sure, while making sure that we are really making the most of the time that we have with kids and the opportunities that we have with them to make sure that we are better allies for children. So I think it's, we talked a little bit this morning and we said, we do it for the kids, and we really do it for the kids. At Ubongo, when we say that, it's not just a slogan. It's not just a saying, a cute saying that we say just so, you know, we look like we know what we are doing. But we really involve kids in everything that we do. And so we have here with us Nyla because she's a child. We've been children maybe, you know, for me, many, many years ago, I was a kid. And my experiences were my experiences, but kids these days also have their own experiences. So we wanted to have a child here to tell us exactly what it's like to be a child these days, and then, you know, hear from experts and people who are working for children and get their opinion. So maybe to start, Nyla, can you tell us, in your opinion, what do you think kids need the most from adults, from their parents?
Kids,
If you can speak louder.
Kids need love and support, because without love and support, there's nothing, because kids don't have the ability to control themselves. They don't have money to pay where they live. And yeah.
Okay, so they need love and support. In what ways are you getting that from the adults in your life and parents? How is that going for you?
It's going really well because I have my family, my parents, my friends, and yeah.
Okay. So for those of you who went to workshops, you probably missed Ochek's talk, which was amazing. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you're part of this conversation today. So Ochek, you told us your story growing up and how difficult things were for you. It seems that your parents were not as engaged, as involved in your life, and you had to be raised by your auntie. So let's talk a little bit about, first of all, how can parents maximize, you know, the opportunities that they have to the fullest potential with their kids? Because like the more investment you make, the more you get out of it. But also, how can parents improve relationships between themselves and their kids? Just from your experience growing up. Yeah.
Okay, so I think number one thing is parents should stop thinking that raising kid is just a job done. It requires investment. It requires skills. It's not just because we are born as a human, we are able to raise kids in a proper way. I think a lot of parents are doing things contrary, not because they hate their kids. I am sure that a lot of mistakes that happen with the parents is with a good intention of trying to help kids, but with some bit of ignorance and not understanding, not a bit aware, not having the knowledge and the skills that require to raise kids. So I think before having kids, just invest on understanding what does it mean by saying parenting. Have some room to talk to experts who are really studying the area and who have understanding in the area. But also for the organizations. I think supporting education sector is great. But at the end of the day, we have to understand it's not just about the output that comes. It's about, and the methodology in education is about people who are going in the education sector. And if we are talking about people who are going in the education sector, we should start more area investing. I think there's a report by World Bank showing that Tanzanian young people have at least 40% to live their potential. That is not a good thing. We want to hear Tanzanian young people are able to live at least 80% or 100%. But why is it 40%? I think it's because the investment in kids, we start thinking it much at the time when they are going to school. But the investment in kids and in relationship particularly is not when they are going to school. Is what type of conversation? When you sit with them, do you see them as people who can also give support to you? Can you build their confidence? We have heard also that Tanzanian young people are not confident enough, are not problem solvers. But where do this problem come from? And we're all going to complain is the education system. But really, is it the education system? Is it not the way we raise them? If we are not giving them an opportunity to question us, and an opportunity to come to our heart and us to go to their heart, not just for us to look into them as people who are working so hard to provide. Because I think that is very obvious. It comes that we are providing for them and we are supposed to provide. And I think that is not only for the parents. It's for the organization as well, for the government as well. And you want us, when we are grown up, when we are in 18, to come very strong and be good people. But one thing that I've been aware is we do not become great people when we are grown up. You become great person from the day when you start growing up. You become wise not when you grow up. You become wise from the day when you start growing up as a kid. You can meet with a kid and they talk and they say, okay, they have knowledge and the understanding and they are able to articulate and analyze issues. So I think that's the point. The point is we should look into kids as our primary partner, as I said, not just as people who they are just in us and we are there to take them to this. They are there to take us to that level. When we miss love, I have seen more bigger love from the kids than to anyone else, and a very genuine love, because they can tell you, if you give them chance, they'll tell you when you are wrong. So in our families, are we able to allow kids to criticize the way we interact, the way we talk? When you are buying a new car, are you able to ask them, what type of car do you want us to buy? It seems like ambitious, but think about when you buy a car and then kids does not like the color of car. So every day you are going to church, they are looking at you, or to Moscow, they are like, what type of car is this? But it was very simple. Just engage them into conversation. Okay. Just look into them as people who have ideas and knowledge, and they can help you also grow and become a good person.
Yeah. Thank you. And I think, I think even the language we use probably also contributes to how we behave. Because when you think about mtoto anaitwa sio mtu mzima, okay, you refer sio mtu mzima, afu kuna watu wazima. It's like when you are using those words, that kind of language, kwamba huyu ni complete human being, mtu mzima, full human, alafu huyu sio full human. So ninaona hiyo like kusema hivyo vitu kama kutumia lugha kama hiyo pia inasababisha kuwa na malezi ama sisi watu wazima tunakuwa tunawatreat watoto kama sio watu ambao ni complete, ambao ni watu ambao tunaweza tukawasikiliza, tuka collaborate now, tunakuwa tu ni watu sio partners, you understand, right? And that's what I think you're saying. So Naila also had a question for you.
Check, what can adults make sure they become good parents? How do you feel when your parents were like fighting a lot?
Okay, so what efforts parents can do to become good person? Good parents. Yeah. So I think, as I said, parents should start investing in becoming good parent. It doesn't just happen to be a good parent. It needs investment. And the question about what did I feel when the parents were fighting, I didn't have a chance of looking and seeing them fighting. I had a chance of hearing that they were not good together. And one thing that I do remember is, if I would hear my mom coming, I would run. So I would not want to see my mom, because I was told she's not good. So the thing that it does when your parents are fighting is that anger and poison in you of revenge, of just, you don't feel right. The time I was trying to kill myself, I tried to kill myself twice. And at that moment, was not because I don't have clothes, was not because I didn't have food, but because I didn't feel part of the conversation and of the family. You don't feel included by anyone. And that happens, and when I was working as a Sunday school teacher, I saw that happening. Kids will come and bring you to a case, and you think they are a very happy family. They have cars, they have good house, but the kids are bringing a case like, my mom, my mom is always, they are always fighting in their room, and I can hear them. And this is making me upset. I don't know what to do. But at this point, these kids have no even a safe space to go and open up. So I think if you ask me how do I feel about that, I think I wasn't able to feel myself, but I have engaged with kids who have been experiencing that, and they're really confused. Okay. And it makes them have no focus in their studies, not happy. You see them always confused, which is not good for the kids.
Thank you. Dr. Mena, you're an educator for many years, so we actually conducted a study asking parents, when do children start learning? And the feedback that we got was, well, they start learning when they start going to school. And so we freaked out and did this conference to basically address that and create an awareness around, no, kids start learning at birth and even before birth. So you find there's a lot of people who think that way, and a lot of parents who say, well, I take my kid to school, it's the teacher's responsibility to help them learn. I shouldn't really be involved as much. What do you say to that? To what extent should parents be involved in their children's learning? And why is that important? And then what are the challenges that prevent parents maybe from being more engaged? And yeah, sorry, there's quite a number of questions.
Yes, I think, thank you very much. I think it is because, you know, we are parents because we are parents. I was not taught to be a parent, unfortunately. And just start to have babies and take care of them. And when you are parents, maybe you are more concerned with the material things. I think most of the parents in Tanzania, they are more concerned with the material things. And we think that education is what is taking place at the school. I think one of the serious problems we have in our country is about, you know, we have 3 levels of education. We have informal education, we have formal education, and we have non-formal education. I don't think if we are put much emphasis now on informal education. I think that's the area which we are not taking it very seriously. Our main emphasis today is about schooling, go to school. And we think that everything is taking place with the schools. And my colleague here has talked a lot about competences, being confident, being critical thinker, and whatever. All this, you can find them in the school curriculum. You find them in the school curriculums. But they are supposed to happen at the family level, right at the family level. Do real parents help their children to develop these competences? I don't think if they are doing it. And because, if you ask me, I will say that when you talk about competences, perhaps it's a cultural issue. I'm not sure in our culture as Tanzanians, we think very much about developing the competences. I know there are some countries where parents will be, they can say that, well, my child now can communicate, my child can read, my child can do this, my child can do this. But I don't know if you ask the Tanzanian parents, I don't like to generalize, but if you ask a lot of parents, perhaps they cannot say anything about their child. They cannot even explain their child. They cannot even say anything about the changes which are taking place in their child, maybe from 3 to 6 and whatever.
But wazazi wengi wanasema mimi sijasoma kwa hiyo siwezi kumsaidia mtoto wangu, kwa hiyo itabidi mwalimu afanye hizo kazi. What do you say to that?
Well, it's because they are thinking about learning is what is taking place in the school. They don't think about the learning at the family level. They don't think about these competences which you want to develop to your child. You know, we recently, I think the Tanzania have changed the curriculum for pre-primary because previously the curriculum focused very much on the subjects. Now the curriculum has focused on the competencies, to collaborate, to communicate. These are the things you can do at the family level. To plan. You can teach your child how to plan things. You can teach your child to decide, as my colleague has said here. This is completely the role of the parents. But they are not doing it because they don't know that that is also part of learning. One day I told my colleague, perhaps we need to develop a curriculum for the parents. We need to design a curriculum for the parents because we are parents. We should be parents because we know our responsibility. And no one we are not given that education. For example, if you want to get married, you go to the church, they give you 2 days, 3 days, then already you have a wife. I don't know if what's happening in the museum. But this is the reality. So the big challenge is for the nation to think about informal education, is to think about supporting the parents to understand their responsibility. And our parents today, they are very busy. They are extremely busy. You know, to teach someone is not an easy task. You stay with your child for 5 days, 6 days, observing what is taking place. So there should be, the parents should be devoted. You have, right. It's not about giving birth, it's about supporting the child to grow.
Thank you.
I don't know if
thank you. Yeah, you've addressed
cover your issues.
Yeah,
anyway,
thank you. So Marion, you work at UNOCD, and it's basically an agency that's working to prevent crime and drugs, and also tries to instill values in kids from a very young age. When I had this conversation with Nyla, she was very intrigued why maybe you work there. So maybe Nyla, do you want to ask your question?
Most people don't think that most parents don't know that kids know about drugs because now there's social media and kids go on that and they learn and then they go join groups and then they do drugs.
So yeah, so her question was, you know, a lot of people think that it's adults who do crime and bad things. So why are you working with children? Nobody would think children would do those kind of things. What exactly are you doing with children to prevent crime and drugs? So she really wanted to understand that. And also, I think she was curious whether you enjoy that kind of job.
Thank you very much. Well, that's a very good question, actually, and I think the best answer would be to have it should be answered by the kids themselves. What I'm trying to say is, what we are trying to do is not to teach children like crime is bad, drugs are bad, or exactly what you were saying. What we are trying to do is really to empower children so that they take the issues themselves, that they try to understand themselves what is wrong, what is good, what they want to do, what they want to become, and what they want to combat. And for example, crime is one area which is happening in every society. We can speak of corruption, of organized crime, of trafficking. And at UNODC, actually, before I've been working a lot with judges and prosecutors and police officers. So we have not been working so much with children historically at UNODC because, we're fighting drugs and crime, which are usually things adults are fighting, right? And but we have realized if you want, as you were saying, to combat crime in society in general, to have rule of law, to achieve rule of law, you have to start engaging everybody, including children, of course. Why? Because they are the basis. Everybody starts at a young age to develop values, to develop beliefs, to develop competencies. We were speaking just about competencies. It's super important if you want to have a society where values are really there to combat later on crime and such behaviors towards drugs, crime, and so on. So that's why we have been trying to work more and more with children to empower them to act for rule of law.
Is that satisfying? I always say, if you want to teach a child to be a thief, like the best time is 0 to 8. Like, if you want to teach them to be corrupt, like you teach them early. And what's always surprising to me is why aren't we teaching these values in schools? Like being intentional and like saying, we're going to teach you about integrity and about empathy because it's important. And these are like fundamental values that will help you succeed in life. We don't see that. But what do we see? We see that, our governments invest quite a lot in building prisons, because when there's crimes, people will they will be sent to jail. But like the measures that are being taken to prevent it from happening, period, are so few. But investments that are being made to just kind of combat it when it's already happened and it's a big problem. So it's like what I love about what you're doing is the fact that you're trying to fix this at the root. So Nahida, we're going to move on to you. You are a mother and a writer, and you have quite an inspirational story, I think, one that can move all of us to action. So if you can just share with us, how did you become a writer? How did that work out for you?
This happened 12 years ago. My daughter is 12 years old. I lived in South Africa. And I would come back to Dar es Salaam for holidays. So when I got pregnant, I started to collect books. I said I want it from different authors around Africa. Wherever I would go, I'd buy it. So when I came to Dar and when I went to the bookshops to buy books written by Tanzanian authors, I found hardly any. I can't say none, hardly any. And the ones that were available, I was not happy with. So I said, I don't want it. This is it. And at that same time, I came across the quote written by Toni Morrison, which says, if you cannot find a book, that you want to read, then write it. So I was inspired by that quote. I said, let me start writing for my children. So the initial plan was, when I started writing, it was meant to be for my children. My focus was African and make them Islamic. So that was the focus. When I moved back to Dar es Salaam, there was an opportunity, and my first book was written on people with albinism. When I moved back to live in Dar es Salaam, I didn't like that the media talked so much about how cruel the Tanzanians were and highlighting what was happening to people with albinism. So I felt that it was my responsibility, again, circle of influence, it was my responsibility, and I took it upon myself to say that I'm going to make that change, even if it's that one change. So I went to different publishers and I said, I've got an idea. Can you write this? Because I feel that I can, reach out to the younger generation to make a difference. And obviously the publishers weren't interested because it would not be a textbook. But what happened is that there was an award that was happening, a Canadian, there was a BERT award, if some people know about it, and it was sponsored by a Canadian. And when I went to one publisher, they're like, look, if you can submit a story in 4 weeks, that's the deadline. We will submit your story as a competition. in 4 weeks. So this is my first time I'm writing a chapter book. But because I wanted to do it, I submitted a chapter book within 4 weeks. And it went in. And 2 weeks later, I was told I was shortlisted. And that is how my journey to writing started in Tanzania.
Okay. And I think Naila also had a question for you. Congratulations on that.
Do you believe more in African stories or international stories?
I've lived quite a few countries, so I've read different books, but my heart is with Africa in the sense that I feel that there isn't enough. There's a famous talk by Chimamanda who says that, one-sided story or the narrative. I believe in saying the Tanzanian narrative from my eyes. Obviously, there's a lot of different Tanzanians here, and everybody will have their own narrative, their own version of whatever they say. One incident can be narrated in so many different ways. So I want to tell my story as a Tanzanian living and brought up here, to the children. So whatever it is, I've written a story on Maasai. I had to research it. I know very little about the Maasai, but I researched it and I wrote a story about a young boy who is a Maasai. I've written about children with albinism. I've written about children in Zanzibar. So this is my perspective. This is how I see, Africa. And I want to tell my narrative before somebody else does.
Yeah. Thank you. Natalie, we'll move on to you. So you work at DFID. I think people would be interested to know what that is and what that does. But I'm also interested to understand, and I think the people here, if you don't know, actually DFID has funded Akili and Me. So that's great because it's also an ECD show that is loved by millions of people across Africa. I think I'm also curious, how do you prioritize your investments in ECD? What kind of things are you looking for? Obviously, you have limited resources, and there are so many different solutions out there, ECD solutions that you could be putting your money in. So what are your priorities? Why are those your priorities? And how do you make sure you get your best value for money?
Thanks, Doreen. Yes, so first of all, you asked what DFID is, who I am, and what I'm doing here. So happy to answer that. So I work basically for the UK government and our delegation in Tanzania. And we're our vision in Tanzania. We're UK working in partnership with Tanzania to end poverty and to create prosperity for everyone. How does that work? Where does ECD fit into it? I mean, I think, as you say, for us and for the work that we do, we're always looking what's going to bring the biggest impact for the investment, what's going to have the best return on what the people that we're working with, what we're supporting. And that's really how we've increasingly come to focus on ECD projects like Ubongo and like a number of partners in the room. I think if you're looking at how do you create prosperity and end poverty, you could think, okay, so we need to be funding the end of the chain, if you like, jobs in agriculture or supporting security. But, what so much of the evidence is telling us and what so much of the experience in this room and from today is telling us is that putting the child at the center and supporting someone right from the beginning has the biggest return on any investment that you can make, right? So to bring some figures into it, for every $1 that you spend on the early years, you're expecting $17, $18 in return at the end of it. So you're increasing the ability to learn that children have later on in education, as Oche said. You're reducing likelihood of crime, you're increasing health, you're increasing earnings. So that's basically why we've increasingly looked at things that will help children from the earliest years through our investments, whether that's through programs to support nutrition, programs to support maternal health, pre-primary education. But for me, the next challenge is, how do we really make sure all of these things are speaking to each other? It can be so easy, I think, to stay in your area, to say, okay, I'm the education person, I'm the health person, I'm the nutrition person. But how do we, through forums like this, come together to see the value of what we're delivering?
Wow. Thank you so much. So we don't want to be the only ones asking questions here. So I'll say start preparing your questions. We'll come to you and take maybe 2 or 3 questions and then answer them, have our panel address those questions as we keep going. So Ali Nune, right? I'm saying that right, okay. So you work at UNICEF. Again, when I had a conversation with Nyla about your work, she was very excited because she said, I want to work there someday. So I'll let her ask you a question because she's very excited about where you work and she wants to be a part of that one day.
Why do you think it's important to invest in children early?
Okay. Thank you, Natalia. It is very I'm happy to have this question. We've been discussing since morning. Why do we want to invest in early child development? And there have been a number of discussion on the area of brain development. We know that from the discussion from the morning that early child development start from 0, means we start from pregnancy to 8 years. Now, why are we want to invest in this period? Because we know that this is the period where almost 80 to 90% of the brain of the child is developed. So it's almost we are done with the brain development. We are remaining with only 10%. So we want to invest in this period because this is the period where the brain of the child is almost full development. So if we miss this period, we miss to invest in this period, it means that there will be some gaps in the brain development of the child. And if you want the brain of the child to develop we need to fuel it. We need to have nutrition. We need to have good health for the child. We need to have early learning. We have been talking since morning. We need to have responsive care. My brother there was talking on responsive care. How do we nurture our children? It's part of building the brain of the child. And also we need to protect the child. So we need 5 components so that the brain of the child should develop full. From the data, it is saying that almost sub-Saharan Africa, 43% of the children, they are not developed to their full potential. Now we want to bridge that gap, that almost half of the children are not developed at the full potential because we are not investing in those areas. But also we say ECD is a key factor for human and development, or general or economic development. If you want to have good humanity, personality, responsible citizen, we need to start investing at these early years. There's a saying that normally we, especially on the, I can say the sub-Saharan countries, formerly we started to invest on the people, on the young children when they start at 7 years, when we want them to go to school. And we forgot that the brain of the child is developed below 3 to 5 years from 0. So we miss that opportunity. So if you want our children to be part of the development, we need to invest on ECD. But also we need to invest on ECD. There's a number of gaps on gender equality. There's this gap of gender equity because we've not investing in a lot on ECD. So ECD is like the foundation. We want to build the foundation of the human being, of the child. So if you want to have a child, a responsible citizen, a well-economic developed country, we want educated people, we need to invest in ECD. It's like you are building a house. If you want to build a house, maybe a 7-floor building, you need to invest at the foundation level. Right. So ECD is part of the foundation which we need to invest a lot. Starting from the parents, giving knowledge the parents, because we are seeing that parents are the one who are taking care of the young children, especially at this age 0 to 3, where we want to build more foundation. So it's important for
Yeah, thank you so much. Nataka sana kuisema hiyo point aliyosema tena kwa Kiswahili kwa sababu ili kila mtu aelewe na asikie kwa sababu nafikiri ni muhimu sana. Anasema kwamba ubongo wa mtoto unakuwa kwa 90% kati ya miaka 0 na 3. Kwa hiyo yani ni kama unajenga nyumba, unataka kuhakikisha kwamba ule msingi ni mzuri na bora na unaweza ukabeba ule uzito ambao unataka kuweka juu. Na uwaga nasikia sana watu wengi wanasema mimi bwana nitampeleka mtoto shule nzuri akiwa mkubwa. Baadaye akifika huko juu huko ndo nitaanza kumpeleka shule nzuri. Sasa hivi hizi mbaya tu bwana. I need to save money, you know? Na sio kweli, inabidi uhakikishe unajenga msingi mzuri na unaweka hiyo investment kama ni muda kucheza naye na kufanya vitu vingine vyote. So sasa nataka tuchukue maswali from the audience. Maybe we'll take 1, 2 or maybe up to 3 and then we'll answer them and then we'll take some more if there is more.
Habari za mchana.
Salama.
Nafurahi tumefika kwenye hii session ambayo kidogo mimi kama mzazi, kama mwalimu na kama pia ni curriculum developer. Nafikiri kuna mahali ambapo either tunapakimbia au tunapasahau. Kipengele cha watoto kudhalilishwa kijinsia. Tunakazana kuangalia namna gani watajifunza, namna gani ubongo wao unakuwa, namna gani tutengeneze materials and everything. Lakini kuna eneo ambalo pengine kutokana na mila au na aina ya maisha yetu pengine halituruhusu sana kuwa wazi na kulizungumza. Lakini watoto wanadhalilishwa kijinsia sana.
So what's your question?
Wazazi, my question is, kwa ambao ni writers, hasa swali langu kwa nimeona kuna dada ambaye ni mwandishi pale. Nahida, yes. Naomba tutizame pia eneo hili. Ni eneo ambalo lina tatizo. Tuangalie namna gani ambapo tunaweza kuandika vitabu either kwa ajili ya wazazi na kwa ajili ya watoto, how best they can protect themselves and how best they can report whatever kind of sexual abuse or abuses that they are going through.
Okay.
Ni tatizo kubwa hasa.
Thank you. So she's saying that sexual abuse is quite a big problem and we need to address it. And then maybe the question there is, how are you as a writer, Nahida, maybe thinking about that problem and how could you approach it? Another question.
Habari za mchana.
Salama.
Okay, kwanza naomba nashukuru sana kwa organize kitu kama hichi to make awareness. My question is, tuna deal sana na watoto wadogo, early childhood. Kama tulivyosema sasa hivi 90% ina grow while they are still young. But then what next? You know, I don't know. I'm afraid, what if like someone invests a lot in early childhood education, and then you say like when we are saving for like primary and secondary school. So what is how can we continue with that? They say we invested a lot, but if we cannot afford like for primary and secondary school, how can we know that this child is going to continue to be good?
Okay, so you got that question?
Yes. Another question, please. Do you plan to have this kind of awareness outside Dar es Salaam as well?
I'm sorry?
Are you planning to have this kind of awareness outside Dar es Salaam as well?
Yes, absolutely. So everything that we are discussing here is being taped and it's going to go to TV, which is going to air all over the country. Okay? So I'll take one more question. Okay, there's a lady right here, Roland.
Asante. As a parent, I'm impressed. From the morning, I think we've learned a lot. My question is, we have talked a lot about development of child's brain and all that. But my question is, what do we do to those children that have been missing or have been missing all these type of growing up that we have been preaching from the morning? I mean, those parents who have not been grooming their kids in the way that we have been seeing or being advised from the morning.
Thank you. Maybe I respond on the how can we continue supporting the after early childhood. This is the child development is not a one stop because we have invested a lot on early childhood. Now you are done. You need to continue investing even in other stages. For example, the adolescent, there are a lot which we need to do to this group.
But maybe today we have concentrated a lot on early childhood because it is the topic, and it is also the area which has been, we need also to do something so that when the child reaches at the age of adolescent, she has a foundation to continue growing well. So the other things is on missing opportunity. We had on the children who has, maybe the parent have not invested on when she was or he was in the age of 0 to 8. We are saying the door is not closed for growth and development, but what we are insisting is that we are discussing about the large percent or great percent, that is 90% is being lost, but there is opportunity to remedy those areas. So if you have missed this period, that don't say that I'm done with this because the period has been ended, but there is also an opportunity to continue mentoring the child, providing love, communication, and all those things which we have been discussing.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else would like to answer? Yeah.
Did you want to? All right. Let me say something. I was umming and ahhing to come in on the same question. Let me just on this question of, is there a danger we focus too much on early childhood and we forget the later years? I agree, no. You know, it's very important that we continue to also invest through primary, secondary, higher education. From the DFID side, we're investing a lot in primary education. But the challenge is, it's still working. The challenge is, I think, and this came in the first panel this morning, because there's maybe an obvious place to intervene in school through the education system, in the from 0 to 2 age category through the health system, this 3 to 4 age gap where there's no obvious space for us to intervene, that's a particular challenge. It calls on us to be innovative, to take new approaches, to come together and discuss. So that's really, for me, the purpose of this conversation today, but it's not to say that we need to ignore the challenges that come later.
Yeah.
I'd like to answer the question that was directed to me. Regarding, would I consider writing? Am I writing? I write, and I would like to write on as many issues as I can. But, us being here together, and I think Natalie talked about how we can all come together. The issue is that this is a different story with writers. If I was to write, who's going to read my book? Who's going to publish it? Where is it going to be, distributed? So that's a whole different issue when it comes to writing. I will write, I can write, and then what? So then I need people, whether it's publishers, whether it's any kind of stakeholders, government, coming in to say, look, this is a really important writing. We need to now distribute it. So yes, if there is, if there is such a job, or, I could do that. But the point is, readership, when it comes to Tanzania, it's a different story. When it comes to talking about, development, the age, the 0 to 3 or going on, when you start reading for your children at a very young age, the benefits are so many to list. But then the knowledge needs to go out there to say that, parents, read to your children, because that's not only bonding. You're not only bringing in the education, but you're bringing in the whole bonding. As Enoch had said earlier, how are the parents spending time with the children? If the parents can do that, just to read, even if it's once a week, to read and connect with the children, the benefits are immense.
Thank you. You had something to say, Dr. Mena?
Yes, I want to say something about violence against children. I think that is true what we are saying, that is a problem. Kuna tatizo, naomba niseme kabisa, kuna tatizo kubwa la kuwaonea watoto. At the family level, at the school level, at the street level, it's a serious problem. Of course, Akili and Me, we have done a study about that. Maybe it will be out in 3 or 4 months to come. But I'm saying that this is the area which really affects learning. Na kwa bahati mbaya sana, watu wengine hawajui kama even at the family level, there is a violence against children. Hata wazazi hawajui kama wanawafanyia watoto wao mambo yasiyofaa. So this is a problem, because sometimes it's a cultural, sometimes it's a way of living and whatever. So I think it's something we need to address together. It's a serious issue for sure. Wako watoto wengine wamepata psychological problem at the schools. They've experienced some disease and whatever. There is a lot of the problems. Wanatishiwa, wanapata a lot of problems. Mara peptic ulcers, mara wanapata BP, heart problems, and whatever. This is happening in the schools, and sometimes it's happening even in the family. Nimeona tangazo moja la watu wa Radio Free Africa wanatangaza la mama anamlazimisha mtoto, nafikiri mmelifuatilia lile, kama kuna mtu amefuatilia, anamlazimisha avae viatu kwa nguvu, va. Mwisho baba akaja akasema, babu akamwambia, no, don't do that, handle it with love and whatever, baadaye yule mtoto akavaa. So this is the question about parenting for sure. And I think it's a critical issue.
Yeah. So I have a follow-up question, and it's for you, Ochek, because I think this brings up a lot of things that have happened in your own life. So obviously, yeah, sexual abuse is a big problem, and I think there's a lot of cultural barriers that also make it worse. Cultural issues that make it worse and more hidden. Families are not comfortable talking about these kind of things. When they happen, sometimes people don't believe kids because, oh, it's a child. They said uncle did this. I'm not going to believe them. So I have a question, which is, what is the role of the community around the child? Because sometimes your immediate family, like kids are not getting what they need from their immediate family, but what is the role of the extended family, of the neighbor, of the teachers, and just people around that child? What could a child really benefit from that, and what kind of roles could we be filling in those children's lives to make sure we're helping with things like this?
Okay, so I think family is one place. The community should be the safe space for the kids. And by saying community, I mean collectively, but individuals in a community understanding their role, that they are the people who can listen. As we said, in a family, the abuse is happening within the family. And one thing to clear when we are saying abuse is not necessarily the violence that we see, the physical one. I think there are very big emotion and the trauma that are in kids, and they cannot express this. So the community should be the place where these kids can go and express. And as I give an example when I was speaking in the previous year, that when I was working as a Sunday school teacher, I would hear a lot of stories from the kids, which they don't have any place to go and speak about them. And if you listen to them, it is changing their behavior. And when they start doing well in school, parents will come, wow, you are teaching our kids well. But what I did was not teaching anything. Was just listening to their story, to what they are saying, and then teaching them and telling them the coping strategy around that problem they are going through. So I think there are room for community to be the caregiver, to be the people who can accommodate, who can listen, and who can give these kids hope. I give an example that when I was growing up, the opportunity I had was, I can remember well, if I was sleeping, sometime I would sleep in the street, but sometime I would sleep in someone's house. And the fact that they are inviting me to come in and not judge me to why I'm there, show that they're understanding where I'm coming from, that itself was giving me a different scenario. Kids can fight for their right, and they know what is their right. But if we don't have the space for them to stand out, it's difficult, and the community can do that. And I can say a little bit about the question you asked about kids who have already missed that opportunity. As a national, we have to be aware that we are not going to run away from the fact that we didn't do well our job. So we'll see, as we are seeing at the moment, research happening and saying 61% of graduates are ill-prepared. People who are entering job market, youth are not ready. That is an outcome that we cannot run away from facing it, as long as we haven't invested enough at this stage. But there is still opportunity. Every one of us can take that action. Just don't think that you'll become a great person by investing on yourself. The truth is, if you have a lot of wealth and some young people, they become vibakas around or panyarods, what is your wealth going to do? They're going to come after your wealth. They're going to come after your kids and spoil your kids. So let us not just focus on ourselves and on our kids. When we are talking about kids upbringing and nurturing young people, it should be looking on your own kid, but also looking to what is happening to your next door, because that is also your area.
Wow. And I think with that, you've really brought it home that we are all responsible for kids to nurture them and to really make sure that they are good and they have what they need to thrive. We have about 5 minutes left, so I'm going to give everyone half a minute to just give their final remark, one sentence. What do you want people to take away from this conversation? If there was one thing that you really care about that you feel like we can all do or go home and make sure that we are doing, since it takes a village to raise a child, what would it be? I'll start with you, Nyla. what do you think these adults should really, really do to help kids thrive? One word or one sentence, really quickly.
Parents should always love their children, and you shouldn't forget that.
And what? Love
and support them, and you don't forget that.
Okay. So she says parents should love and support their children. Okay, Ochek.
I think parents and the community should allow kids to dream, and not just to dream small dreams. Allow them to dream big. We should stop dreaming for them. We should support their dreams instead of dreaming for them.
I think we should learn to support our children.
Thank you. I think it's important to have a diversity of stakeholders. We've been hearing a lot about parents, about families, about schools. I think we should involve, of course, always civil society, the private sector, and also diversity of tools, like creating things not only in families, in communities, but maybe also different forms of engagement, be it with videos, like Ubongo is doing, comic books, museum exhibitions, engagement with the community. There are so many different possibilities to engage children in the family, outside the family, in the classroom, outside the classroom, and with so many different stakeholders, it's really a common effort. Thank you.
Read with your children and provide them with books. When Einstein was asked, how do I make my child intelligent? He responded and said that give them fairy tales to read. So the question was, how do I make them more intelligent? And his response was, give them more fairy tales. So read with your children.
So I think as much as we're supporting our children to learn, we should also never stop learning ourselves. And I think often the best way to do that is to meet people with a different perspective who open your mind to a different way of seeing things. And already today, I've sat on tables I've spoken to people from a really different background, people who are coming here as parents, as teachers, as civil society. So I'm challenging myself to meet with somebody else new today, talk about something new, and I would just maybe challenge everyone in the audience to do the same.
To me, the point to take away this to you is that we should understand that early childhood development is about social development, is about economic development, is about emotional development, and is about physical development. So we should look at a child at a holistic approach, and so that everyone is responsible for taking care of the child. But what is matter a lot is we need to start investing to the families and parents so that they can start taking the role of taking care of children starting at the early stages. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we still have a few minutes, and I also have something I would like to add. Did you have something? You're raising your hand. Is it like urgent and really important? I'll give you, well, we have like 2 minutes. I'll give you half a minute to say it.
Thank you. I just felt I needed to say this. First, congratulations to Ubongo for having this event. And I think it's very important to focus on the ECD because I have a medical background. So we usually talk about how you need to feed your children well because that period also is very important. So nutritionally as well, I acknowledge that she said economically, whatever, emotionally, but also nutritionally. And also one last thing is that beautiful co-moderator, Naila, is my niece, and I'm very proud that she's there. And this shows how we should support our children and love our children.
Yes,
yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Like, this is what happens when you invest in your children. And I think we've seen that even this morning with Melody, with Christabella, our guest of honor, that if you invest in your children, wanakuwa watu wazima, sio whatever. So I would say, kwanza to examine the language we use around children, and for children, like, you know, we have got to see them, and to see them as full human beings with needs, with feelings, and opinions and ideas, and listen. And listening is not just hearing. Listening is also understanding. And the more we understand, the more we are able to meet them where they are and provide with them with what they really need. So I think the things that were mentioned here don't even cost money to do. Love and support? I don't think so. Let them dream their dreams and dream big. No, it doesn't cost money. A book, you can get that for free somewhere and read it. These are things that we can all afford to do. So let's just take responsibility and do them. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, our panelists.